Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Businessology Show. I am so pumped to bring our guest on today. We really only have great guests that teach us as agency owners how to live our life in this complicated world. So very excited. Rand Fishkin is on the show today, co-founder, CEO of Sparktoro, a number of companies actually, makers of fine audience research software. And if you haven't seen just YouTube videos of that software, it's mind-blowing when you see it. But you know Rand also as CEO of Moz formerly, and he's dedicated his professional life to helping people do better marketing through his writing, video speaking, his book, Lost and Founder, which we're going to mention. And all of his content is just, it real truly is life-changing. So we're so thankful for him being on the show. And when Rand's not working, he's usually cooking a fancy meal with the love of his life, author Geraldine DeRuyter. I learned how to say her name. And if you bribe him with great pasta or fancy cocktails, he'll pull back the curtain on big tech's dark secrets, which we're going to do today. So, Rand, thanks for coming on the Businessology Show. It's great to have you, man.
Yeah, thrilled to be here, Jason.
Very cool. So we're gonna learn a lot from you. What's the fancy cocktail? So I got to ask that.
Sure.
Let's get that out of the way.
It really depends. I have been all over the place with my cocktails. I do love. If I had to go with a classic, I'd say the Boulevardier.
Yeah,
is one of my favorites.
I'm
not even that big of a bourbon rye whiskey drinker, but I love a fantastic Boulevardier.
Nice. Well, I'm gonna have to try that. Rye whiskey is one of my choices, so very good.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
It's one of the easiest cocktails in the world. It's equal parts based off the Negroni. So it's just Campari, Vermouth de Torino, and your favorite bourbon or rye.
Some Bullet Rye. That'd be great. Or Woodford Reserve. So good stuff. Well, very cool. So we got the most important questions out of the way, Rand. So let's kind of dive in. So really before, being the founder of Moz, that really brings a lot of cred in being successful. That's the label we're gonna put on that.
Yeah.
And you have some great YouTube films and videos out. You actually wrote a book about the ups and downs of that. The book called Lost and Founder. So what made you feel like you had to kind of document some of that past so that you could help us all learn from it?
Yeah.
That's a big question, probably.
Yeah, no, but a fair one, I think, Jason. So I would say that Moz was a wonderful experience in a lot of ways, but a really challenging, high drama, traumatic experience in other ways. And I primarily blame myself for that and my lack of knowledge about what an entrepreneur is able to do, right? What you can do. And I think that many of us, I'm sure many of your listeners, fall into this bucket of doing things half awake.
Yeah.
You do things because you've seen other people do them. You do those things because you believe that's the only path available to you. And the beautiful thing about entrepreneurship that I think those of us who've been through it a few times realize is every path is open to you. You can do it how you want to do it. You don't have to follow a prescriptive set of guidelines that, whatever has been culturally instilled into you or is popular in a particular field.
Yeah.
In my case with Moz, I followed this path of raising venture capital for a software business and then discovering later all the sort of pressures and challenges that accompany that, which I don't think are well marketed to entrepreneurs when VC is sold to them. The other very frustrating thing is that you don't have a lot of options as an entrepreneur in terms of how to raise money. So most of your listeners run agencies. Am I correct?
That's right. Yeah. Bootstrap, they just run agencies based on their own revenue.
So Moz was an agency. Right, Moz started as a consulting firm. Initially, I was doing web design and then doing SEO, and it became a software business because we built our own software and then released that. But it wasn't successful because of our consulting. It was successful because we had built an audience through this blog I had started to share how SEO worked in the early days of that field.
Yeah.
And that audience needed the product that we built for ourselves. So when we made it available to other folks, they signed up. And I think that the very frustrating part is many agency owners would probably agree that with $50,000 or $100,000 or $250,000 to get their business off the ground, life would have been so much easier, right?
Yeah.
So much better. Even if it was just keep that money in the bank, don't touch it at all, but feel like, hey, if next month doesn't go well, or if I don't sign this one client, I can still make payroll, right?
Yeah.
That
it's a fearful thing to bootstrap between those ups and downs, and it's scary. So do you think that's the draw of VC money is to eliminate some of that fear? And you're saying, but it comes with something else, and that's what you weren't told or you didn't know, and a lot of people probably don't know. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that. So here's a good example. I'm friends with a lot of agency owners, especially in the digital marketing universe, and many of those agency owners and I get together because they were, sort of customers of Moz. They'd speak at the same events I spoke at, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And we would get together, and sometimes, occasionally, if you had a couple beers too many, we'd talk about finances, right? Which is kind of a taboo topic. Not a lot of folks are comfortable talking about it. Sure. And I remember my agency friends just being blown away that Moz, in years where Moz did 10 million, then 30 million, then $50 million in revenue.
Crazy.
They were like, wait a minute. How am I making more money than you, Rand? That doesn't make any sense at all. So when things went sideways with Moz, I say sideways, essentially Moz sort of plateaued. I had stepped down from the CEO role, promoted my longtime chief operating officer to be CEO. And the company kind of just never got its growth rate back up. So it wasn't shrinking, but it just wasn't growing fast enough. It was growing a few percent a year, maybe 10% a year instead of 100% a year, which is what VCs expect and need.
Right.
And I disagreed with leadership a lot. So I left the company in 2018, or was kicked out, depending on who you ask. And when I did that, I wanted to start another company. And I didn't have the funds to do it myself, right? So it didn't matter that Moz was, 80% plus profit margins and doing $50 million ARR. Those things didn't matter because the business essentially wouldn't produce any capital for its owners, right? Yeah. Myself included, until it exited.
Right.
And, very frankly, I think that, when I left, I was hopeless about that. I just thought, well, you know what? No one's going to buy this thing. It's not going to go anywhere. So I raised money in a very unique way from 35 angel investors who put money into Sparktoro, sort of the way you would put money into a restaurant,
yeah,
or a law business, and with the promise that we would pay them back with the profits of the business and then continue paying them with dividends. That model doesn't exist in tech, right, which is dumb. It's really dumb that it doesn't exist in tech. It absolutely should. I would like to see more folks do that. A lot of our investors are actually agency owners who said, yeah, I think that software, I think what Sparktoro is building is really exciting, and I want to see it take off. And those investors actually got their money back last year.
Nice.
And then our hope is, next year to pay them dividends again. So lots of lessons, lots of learning challenges, but yeah.
So would you say, as a person, probably as a leader of an entrepreneurial, you've led a lot of entrepreneurial organizations. You're still leading a couple of those. Have you been changed? Like, do you look at the world different? Like, that's probably a strong yes. How have you been changed in a way that an agency owner could hear you and go, I want to be changed that way too, or I probably need that change? What are some of those learnings that you've been changed by?
Yeah, so I think that my entrepreneurial journey has not been building a successful agency, right? Moz was very mildly profitable when it was an agency, and that was a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And I don't do a lot of consulting, but I have seen a lot of agency businesses. Obviously, those are our customers. I know that last year was absolutely brutal, at least in the digital marketing field.
It was.
For a lot of agency folks. Yeah. And a few things that I do with my businesses very, very differently than I've historically done them, and that I don't recommend to everyone. In fact, I would say my biggest piece of advice is there is no one path. If someone comes on this show and they say the absolute right way to do X is this way,
Yeah.
that's probably not right for everyone.
Not true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not true. There are no simple truths in this type of practice and in building an agency. The thing that makes your agency great is probably also the thing that creates weaknesses and structural challenges in your agency. And it's probably not right for 10 other agency owners because that's not their strength and passion and interests. And so I think when I share, I'm going to share a couple of things. I would just urge you to take them with that appropriate bit of insight, right? That it's not one size fits all. So the first one I'll say is I love keeping teams extremely small in terms of full-time members and using lots of contractors and agencies and subcontracting. I think this applies to a lot of small and even mid-sized agency owners who get themselves into trouble when they overhire based on projects that can be canceled by a client at any time.
Yep.
That is one of the biggest dangers. It's tough to build a very strong recurring revenue business in agency world because the tenure of your clients is highly variable based on the environmental factors that are out of your control.
Yeah, it's a really project-based revenue model a lot of times. Yeah.
It really is. And so I would urge you to similarly have project-based employment, right? If you're going to be in a world where you know that your client could cancel at any time, then you have to be in a world where you can cancel your expenses at any time because you don't need that work, right? Those people doing those positions. A few core team members I think is great. And then being able to contract and subcontract is also awesome.
Good stuff.
I would recommend that strongly. And we do that as a software business, which is extremely unusual. Sparktoro only has 3 people. Snack Bar Studio, which is the video game development company that I run, only has 5 of us. We're actually still looking for that 5th for the artist, but and then we subcontract everything else. And I really like that model.
Nice. Very cool. Okay, so that's some changes you've made, and I love what you're saying. And really, a lot of your view of entrepreneurship is that we've got to stop seeing that there's one path for everybody. Which it sounds like that comes a lot from that VC place, because what we see, in the news a lot of times is that's what you do, right? You have a software idea, you get funded, you blow it up, and you make tons of money. And most people actually don't go that route. So I think that's part of what you've tried to do is debunk a lot of that, because that can get people in a lot of trouble. What do you think?
One of the chapters. Oh, I was just going to say one of the chapters in my book, it contains a story where I share like, hey, here's my sort of financial, fully pull back the curtain. Here's how much I made every year, how much we had in savings, all that kind of stuff. And here's my agency owner friends. And, agency owners often express this like, gosh, I wish we could build a software. I wish we could, become a SaaS business.
True.
Do you? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Because when you look at the numbers, I think you might change your mind.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, and it's one of those, the grass is always greener type of thing. And, I don't know, we may be of a similar age, but I didn't grow up on social media and phones. But now it's like the ability to compare, or the danger to compare, is always in my face. And of course, what do we post on social media? It's the best front-facing view we can give of our life. It's when we're on that Alaska tour and working, and that's what we're going to post. I'm not posting pictures of me crunching it out on Saturday. That's just so the views we're seeing are probably a little bit distorted as to the reality, and so we get in our I mean, because entrepreneurship is a major head game. So really trying to stay right mentally and in your own, adequate psychology. And when you have a lot of wrong messaging, it's hard to fight that in your own mind, would
Very
you say?
difficult. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, people often, there's this quote I love. My friend Will Reynolds, who runs Sierra Interactive, an agency out in Philadelphia,
Yep.
said it to me, which was, comparison is the thief of joy. And
Totally.
I think about that all the time, that, when I see something on Hacker News about how some other software entrepreneur did something, I feel that envy. And I hate that feeling, right? I hate that sense.
I hate it.
That my thing isn't good enough. And I want to be clear that this is something else where I have made a lot of investments, Jason. So one thing I decided after Moz that I was unwilling to do ever again is to lose friendships over business.
Nice.
I just, so I'm very unusual. Not a lot of business owners will tell you, and I fundamentally disagree, and that's not how I want to live my life, but they'll tell you that you should not work with your friends. And that, an owner, a business owner, should not necessarily become friends with their employees, that, dangers and risks happen there. And I completely disagree. I only want to work with people who I am friends with, right? Who I have a close personal relationship with. I want to work with, the people I work with is Sparktoro, Amanda and Casey. We really truly care about each other. We love each other. We're going to make time to fly out to each other's, homes and see each other and get together. Casey and I were looking at hiring someone last year, maybe 2 years ago. And this candidate was absolutely perfect. And Casey got on the phone with me and he said, look, I love spending time with you and Amanda. I don't love spending time with this person. And I was like, that's it. It's done. It does not matter anything else about how qualified they are or how much they would make the business better or whatever, because what is our life goal here, right? We've got a wonderful, profitable, growing business in Sparktoro. I'm not going to mess that up for the hopeful sake of, maybe more growth but knowingly make our lives worse.
Yeah.
That's just not, that's not fundamentally how I work. That's something no one told me you were allowed to do as an entrepreneur. I thought entrepreneurship meant growth at all costs. And it doesn't.
It doesn't. Yeah. No, that's a beautiful way to state it. It is counterintuitive. It's especially counterintuitive to the VC world. And of course,
Yes.
a lot of our listeners are not in that world. But it is true when you run a service-based business, which we do. We run a service-based financial accounting firm that serves agencies, and we consult with agencies. They're so intimate businesses because they're all relational, right? It's relationships with partners, relationships with team, relationships with clients. So you're providing a service, but you're always maintaining a relationship. And it sounds like you just went ahead and elevated the relationship above all of it. You said, you know what? That's really the thing. Let's make it the thing. And the business can kind of catch up with the relationship if it's able to. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And here's another very strange thing, which is that I would say we do not demand extremely high intensity hours, high numbers of hours, sort of performance. What we demand is long-term consistency of good results.
Yeah.
Not the absolute best results, but long-term consistency of good results. And we believe that the way to achieve that is to have what we call a chill work environment, where we almost never need to work more than 30 hours a week, the three of us. Yeah. And that's not to say that we don't, right? Occasionally there'll be a 40. Sometimes there's even a 50-hour working week when we, are really crunching on something. And those weeks are fun too. They can be great. But for example, Amanda was pregnant last year. She just had her baby. Geraldine and I, my wife and I, flew down to California to visit them and meet the kid and stuff. And, Sparktoro did fine, right? she obviously was, off for many months,
Yeah.
and, she's going to come back sort of slowly, and it's fine. The business can handle it, right? We can maintain that. And this is because we intentionally designed the company and our working hours and structure to provide that unfortunately, very unique, at least in the United States,
Oh yeah.
working environment.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way though you're laying these things out, and so applying some of that. So this is cool to hear that journey of all that must have been a lot of tough learning for you. And you can watch. You have a lot of this online. You can watch how tough it was in some of the films that were made about some of that in the books, and so a lot of times those harder things do bring us to what is most important in life, and sometimes that happens when you get older. Sometimes, which is great to learn all that. But now, as we switch around a little bit to business and commerce, and 2023, I think it was hard for agencies because we serve pretty large agencies. And they went through some struggles. 2021 and 22 were better for a lot of them. Yeah.
Oh,
A lot of them
huge,
were rocketing up, and it was wild. We're like, what? The pandemic, what's it doing? 2023 caught us off guard. The VC market, I think, really had a rough 2023. Tech companies had a really rough 2023. So maybe why was 2023 like that? And now what do you think about 2024? What is that going to be like?
Yeah. So here's the weird thing that happened, right? 2020 pandemic hits, massive behavior change. Millions of businesses that have never been online or taken online very seriously suddenly have to take it seriously. And so the digital marketing universe blew up, absolutely exploded. And all of the tech companies, Amazon, Apple, Google, Microsoft, right? Everybody serving them saw massive amounts of growth. Digital advertising, massive amounts of growth. So, all of these things, this sort of acceleration you might have expected from 10 years of digital transformation was forced to happen in 2.
Wow.
And that's what caused this massive spike. Then 2023 comes, pandemic largely lifts. Obviously, it has not technically lifted, right? Lots of people are still getting sick and unfortunately dying, but behaviors changed, and governments sort of took their hands off the brakes. And so we see this return to all the things, all the behaviors, right? People are going to concerts, and they're traveling, and they're spending all of this, especially the sort of top 20% of income earners in wealthy countries are just spending like there's no tomorrow, and they still have huge amounts of savings. And this is essentially what keeps the economy going, even as all the tech businesses and tech enablement have to pull back on their spend because they realize that all of their projections were off, right? Amazon thought, we're going to continue to grow like we have been growing for the last 2 years. Nope. right? So people went back to Walmart. They went back to Costco. Yeah. So huge amounts of layoffs, right? And Google did the same thing. Facebook did the same thing. All these companies, Reddit, Twitter, even before the Musk thing.
Yeah.
So all these businesses are pulling back, and that hits agencies really hard because whenever there's a pullback in spend at big businesses or in the B2B side, agencies tend to take the brunt of that.
Right.
And that's no surprise, right? That's the easiest cost to cut. You don't have to fire people off your team, and so you're going to cut your agency spend. Long term, it's usually bad for you, right? Like you can see that long term that tends not to perform well. But once it becomes a trend, it's really hard to stop. So that's why you see that pattern over the last 3 years. I'm sure you and your listeners know this intimately well.
Yep.
And what I expect in 2024 is a bit of I will not call it return to growth at the levels we saw in second half 2020 through to 2022. Mm-hmm. But I do think we're going to see more normalization and a little bit of rebound. It's kind of a miracle that the United States avoided a technical recession.
Totally.
It blows my mind. But if it feels like a recession, that's not just you. It's because of, outside of sort of consumer spending, especially retail and travel, there was significant drop.
Yeah, big time. And when we see, big companies like Google, Reddit, a lot of that's huge in the news. We see that and it produces fear. So the economy runs on a lot of fear and thought and feeling too, which drives a lot of the microeconomic part of what we do. And of course, you and I follow things like the Fed. So them alluding to now maybe bringing some rates down, and that'll bring some capital back in. And so I don't know. It's when things like that happens, entrepreneurs just start jumping on the money and buying all that money and expansion at all costs. And is that wise? Should people be careful? Like, how should they act in their business in 2024?
Yeah. I think was it the Berkshire Hathaway chairman, right? Warren Buffett always says, when others are fearful, you should be bold. And when others are bold, you should be fearful. God. And so I think that's pretty good broad brush stroke advice, especially for folks who are bootstrapped, who maybe want to build a more profitable, long lasting business, as opposed to something that is, the classic sort of venture entrepreneur story is we're going to make 100 bets. 2 of them are going to pay off. 5 of them are going to be meh, sort of base hits. Yeah. And 93 of them are going to die. And that's fine, right? Like that's the model. And so you see lots of entrepreneurs starting lots and lots of companies, and they're almost always in the 93. And, that's just the way it goes. Yeah. Agency owners don't have that luxury, right? They've got one big bet and have got to keep it going. Yep. And so my suggestion for this year would be to continue to control your costs internally. I would generally urge folks against rapid expansion unless you have very high quality guaranteed contracts, with payments coming in and have to do that work. But I would really lean on subcontracting and temporary help to get your work done. I also do think it's going to be a little bit of a challenging time. There's a challenge with the AI issue in that a number of businesses, I'm sure you've heard this, right? Unfortunately, a number of business owners, directors of marketing, VPs of marketing, CMOs, believe that they can substitute the work that agencies have done, especially in things like content creation or promotion or ad writing or placements or those kinds of things, to AIs. Good news is, I think in 2023, a lot of early adopters discovered that large language models are terrible at that. But I suspect there's still a lot of people who are going to have to learn that lesson more painfully and harshly over the next few years. The good news is for people who are not doing that, they're probably going to see some weaker competition. Yeah. So,
well, the AI it's mind blowing, really. Just when you see it implemented in a tool, it is truly mind blowing. To see how good it is. But it even in our firm, we use it. And I was telling one of our senior team members, I'm like, I love that AI transcript, but it doesn't give me your opinion, and I really want to know what you think about this agency that is selling. I need to know what you think, and AI is just never gonna give me that. So we're all in this world trying to learn, how do I leverage a tool that's clearly amazing and mind-blowing, but know that it is just not what experienced people who have gone through the ups and downs of life can truly give with their heart and emotion out of it. So It sounds like you're saying a lot of us are going to keep learning those difficult lessons, I guess, with this generative AI.
I mean, I don't think it's fair entirely to compare it to blockchain technology, right? But it's a little bit in that world where sort of tons of businesses had no reason and no excuse for embracing the blockchain and building their own whatever cryptocurrencies or NFTs or trying to get their technology to function on blockchain. There just wasn't any logic behind it, but they did it because it was so hot right now.
Right.
It seemed similarly mind-blowing, right? Yeah. It was, oh, wow, you can do this validation. It happens across this chain of multi-connected computers. And I don't need to, I can do away with a lot of security risk problem and identification issues. How can we apply this amazing technology? And I worry that that's what people were doing with AI rather than, I think the smartest thing to do is, how does this technology work, right? And large language model predicts tokens that appear after other tokens. So the way that it puts together language that sounds so convincing and compelling is by predicting the words that it is seen most commonly after other words on the internet. If what you're looking for is words that come after other words frequently on the internet, large language models are for you. And if you want to stand out, right? If you want to be unique, which is what a lot of marketing is about,
right?
Large language models are the opposite. They will do exactly not that, right?
Wow.
So your job is to understand how a large language model works and then ask the question, what are the most important problems that our business has? What are the most important problems that our clients have? What are the best solutions to those? And if the best solutions to those most important problems happen to be AI, great. And if they don't, what are you doing? Why are you investing in a thing that's not the best solution to the most important problem?
That's well, it's just part of us learning. We've got to really not just lean into the hype, right? I guess I learned this through entrepreneurship of 20 years of doing entrepreneurship with some fails too, some companies that I've failed to lead, is really learning how to filter the world more appropriately. Instead of jumping on the hype of something that really looks good, obviously driven by me going, ooh, I want some of that, right, for myself, is filtering and going, that's probably not right for me, or it's not right for my clients, or it's not right for the personal goals that I have. And just learning how to filter the world as an entrepreneur is so key to then knowing the next risk you need to take, because those risks can really hurt you or really be what rocket you through growth. And you've got to know what risks to take as an entrepreneur. And it's difficult to do. And a lot of the hardships we go through help us learn that.
I absolutely agree. I think there's this sort of saying in the investment world that investors love entrepreneurs who've had a couple businesses before. Right. As opposed to someone who it's their first time. And after my Moz experience, I really saw why that was. Like, oh my gosh, all these things that felt, you know what the frustrating part of it was, Jason? I don't know if you found this with your businesses, but the things that felt terrifying and scary and concerning, those felt less scary. But the things that felt exciting and amazing and, oh my God, can you believe that, the New York Times wrote about us or whatever it is, those things felt more ordinary. You didn't get the same, I didn't get those same like chills and sense of excitement that I got in my, in my early mid-20s when Moz was taking off for the first time. So the highs are lower, but the lows are higher.
Yeah. Well, and that's good. That's a balanced view of life. Yeah. And I guess when you go through life when you're not balanced, that's a rough way to live. It's really hard.
It is really rough.
It's really rough. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of downs. There's a lot of spikes. And a lot of times you're placing your hopes on this big hyped thing that's actually not as big or as beneficial as you think it will be. And I wonder, I want to ask you this. I wonder if that's what's coming out of our labor force. I think, like, we hear a lot of this. We work with agency entrepreneurs that are growing. So they have teams and they feel their teams are struggling, right? Because a lot of them are virtual. They're struggling at home. They're struggling to know how to work productively, to how to commit to a career or whatever it may be. They're like, my team are just struggling. And when we're talking to a lot of our agency owners or even agency networks where we're speaking, we're like, a lot of those labor changes we feel are going to be permanent, really. Some of it could be generational too, and you don't know really what it is. But is the labor force different now, if forever, or can you say forever? What do you think about the labor force that we're hiring now? What are they like? And I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's okay. So the challenge is that to describe a labor force the size of what we have in the United States, or the Western world, right? If you're hiring, or all English language speaking countries,
Right.
if you're hiring across U.S., U.K., Canada, Australia, whatever. The challenge is that we're talking about hundreds of millions of people, and so any one characteristic that you might give,
True.
which could apply statistically, is going to be a stereotype. And that's reductive and problematic because as an agency owner, you're not hiring 300 million people in
Right.
every English language speaking country. You're hiring 5 people or 25
So you have
people.
to be careful
And
when you
so,
define this, right?
yes. So I think that people love categorizing people, right? We love putting people into categories like, this gender is this
Right.
racial group is this,
Right.
this people from Spain act this way, people with blonde hair are like this, people who wear glasses are X.
Right.
And that's reductive and problematic and introduces lots of bias. And there's lots of reasons why it's generally a terrible thing to do. I wouldn't advise you to do it. But it doesn't mean that stereotypes aren't true. And so, for example, if you say younger folks who work in the United States today have different expectations than folks who are in their 40s and 50s, that's not wrong.
Right. Probably true.
It's just that not every 25-year-old and every 45-year-old are different. And so what I want to inspire agency owners and hiring managers to do is not to get caught up in this fear of, the younger generation is like this. Does it mean that you might have to do 12 interviews with good-looking candidates on paper instead of 7 interviews with good-looking candidates on paper to find the perfect person? Yes. Does it mean that you should fundamentally change who you're hiring and how and where and why? Only if you're finding that those statistical numbers are getting crazy. Like you have to interview 50 people because what you are offering is no longer of interest to an overwhelming majority of folks.
Right.
But I love being picky. I love being completely picky in, who I hire, who I work with. And so I think it is absolutely fine to have exactly your standards and to go out to the market and try and meet those standards, regardless of the fact that, whatever problematic trait you want to assign to the kids these days happens to be.
Yeah. So what you're saying, Rand, is what stereotypes can be true, but it gets real dangerous when you apply that to that 50-year-old in front of you or that 25-year-old person in front of you, because they are their own individual person. You have to know them, hear them, listen to them, collaborate with them. So don't be applying you can have stereotypes generally to learn, but the person in front of you, you need to be open to listen to authentically, right? With some trust and safety and grow together. That's the only way to do it with those relationships.
That's the only smart way to do it. I will say, if you are running a business that has to hire hundreds of thousands of employees, right? You're Google or Amazon or Microsoft. Yes, you probably have to change your hiring practices because you are employing such a large number of people across so many geographies that you need to essentially create a product that is of interest to your customer, which in this case is employees. At an agency, oh man, I mean, unless we're talking about, WPP or something, it just doesn't apply.
Yeah.
You can be picky. You can have your kind of person and just work a little harder to find your kind of people for your group.
Yeah, and that's the work you got to do. Okay, we got to wrap this up, but I got to ask. I mean, Sparktoro is amazing. Like the data set behind it. It's like, how did you get? Yeah, well, here you got 1 minute to explain how you got that data set into Sparktoro, right? It's like you can ask it almost anything and it produces the social content and trends that are amazing. So talk to me about just the massive sets of data you had to push into it, which is what's made it so valuable. So just talk about data and Sparktoro. It's amazing.
Sure. So for folks who aren't familiar with Sparktoro, you can try it for free. There's a We don't even have a free trial. You don't have to put in a credit card. You can just go and play with it for free with an email address. But essentially, it is software that tells you the behaviors and demographics of any describable online group. So you might say, oh, I want to reach podcasters in the UK. And so you put in my audience, just use these words in their profile, podcaster and location UK. And then Sparktoro will tell you gender and age statistics and geography, and it'll tell you words and phrases that they often use to describe themselves, things that they search for in Google. It'll tell you what websites they visit. It'll tell you what social accounts they follow, what podcasts they listen to, YouTube channels they follow, all that kind of stuff. How does it know that? It's 3 data sources that we collect, a combination of collect and buy. One of them is clickstream data.
Okay.
So there's essentially panelists who've opted in to be part of, we use Datos, which has a panel of, I think, tens of millions of people who've opted in to have their internet behavior sort of tracked, aggregated, and anonymized. And then we combine that with a lot of social profile data that we crawl and aggregate, same way Google does.
Yep.
And then we also get data on what appears in search engines, which results appear and pages and domains and that kind of stuff. You combine those 3. I could get into it, but we don't have time.
Right.
We mash those 3 together like making au gratin potatoes, and you get this really wonderful result after 45 minutes in a 375 degree oven.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible. Just even watching a YouTube video of you just playing with it, it's pretty incredible. And it's like, why? I mean, Google, I guess, was not meant to do that, but it's searching tons of data too. But you're doing,
it's aggregating similarly.
Yeah, but you're doing social profile based search results of a particular type of group or people. I guess that was the goal.
Yeah. So essentially, here's the rough way it goes, right? So when you type in podcaster, we'll go and look at, the 100 million LinkedIn profiles that we've got in Sparktoro, and we'll look for ones that contain the word podcaster in their bio or their description or their job title or role. And then we'll take from that group and look at the websites that they have in their profile, the ones that they share, whatever words and phrases appear on their public profile. We'll go to the Datos clickstream data and see if there are matching profiles that align with those.
Wow.
And then we aggregate that together and look at, okay, here's the behavior, here's the demographics, right? Whatever it's in podcasting world, I think it's like 75% men. Turns out, Someone told me a great one. I was on a podcast and they said, I think men have a really hard time having meaningful conversations with each other. And so they start podcasts.
That's probably true. Here we are. Well, here we are, right? So we're
here we are building a friendship, right?
That's right. Yeah, this is great, Rand. Well, great. Well, we're out of time. So, Rand, what's the best place for people to find you and follow you?
Yeah, sure. So let's see. If you are interested in Sparktoro, it's sparktoro.com. Anyone can sign up and play with it. Lots of agencies use us. We tend to be good for those folks. And you can sign up and quit whenever you want. We don't lock you into a long period. Nice. If you are interested in the video game that we're making, you can follow along at snackbarstudio.com. Nice. We're making a game called The Snack Bar at the End of the World, which is going to be a few years away, but you can sign up with your email address if you'd like to get notifications. And I am actually most active these days on Threads. I've moved almost all my Twitter activity there.
Come on.
So Threads and LinkedIn are kind of the 2 channels where I post most of my stuff.
Okay, very cool. All right, we're out of time. Rand, this has been great. You've taught us so much, and I really appreciate you being on the Businessology show. Thank you so much.
Right back at you, Jason. I think we'd be friends in real life. So
for sure.
Let's make that happen
Okay,
today.
let's do it, man. Take care.